hairdo envy so badly. It's so humid down here that all I can do is pull it back, but you always look sensational.
Oh, aren't you so sweet? Well, I got a new haircut person from Nancy McGinnis, who's over at John Roberts right around the corner. Her name is Morgan.
Thank you.
Nice.
Well, it'd be tough to do any better than the one Mary recommended for me, so,
Yes, I love her too.
yes.
Okay, so we're streaming now, Tom?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. This is our January 12th, 2021 council meeting. And we're ready for roll call. Beth, you're on mute.
How's that?
Better.
You're back.
Okay. Allworder,
Here.
Frankel,
Here.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Here.
Great. Okay, first is the election of President of Council Pro Tem for 1 year. Do I have a nomination?
May I nominate Mary?
Do we have a
I'll second
second?
that.
I don't know who
Second
said
by
that.
Larry Frankel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, now how are we doing Todd? How are we doing the swearing in?
Mary's going to raise her hand and repeat after you.
Exactly. You can do it virtually. The state legislature says that is appropriate. And so everyone can raise their hand and take the oath.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go from memory, but I'll do the best I can. Okay, Mary, you ready?
Because if you don't have it written down, go slow. I'm going to follow you.
Yeah, okay. I, Mary Reynolds,
I'm Mary Reynolds.
will abide by the oath of the state. What?
I will abide by the rules of the state of Ohio and the village of Gates Mills.
Right, and as my job as council president pro tem.
In my job as president of council, president pro tem.
Uh,
May I interject?
Yep,
You
Please.
need to include the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Ohio.
perfect.
Uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Ohio. The laws of the state of Ohio.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Hey.
I took a screen print, so I have a picture of it now, Mary.
You will not be seeing a picture of me this upcoming week anywhere doing anything.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to mayor appointments for the administrative offices. Robert S. Reitman, Tax Administrator, Todd Hunt, Law Director, Mike Cicero, Prosecutor, Janet Mull, Finance Administrator and Assistant Tax Administrator, Greg Minicello, Chief of Police, Tom Robinson, Fire Chief, Dave Biggert, Service Director, Building Official and Building Inspector, Trevor Murfello, Service Manager. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move to accept all the nominations.
Second.
Motion by Welsh, seconded by Sandra. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor appointments to boards and commissions and committees. Architectural Board of Review for term ending 12/31/2023, Janet Allworder and architect Bill Childs. I'm going to read them all. Historical Review Committee for term ending 12/31/21, Sarah Welsh, Lori Deacon, Mary Holmes, Ann Steele, architects Dave Ellison and Joseph Gilio, and alternate architect Bill Childs. Planning and Zoning Commission for a term ending 12/31/2024, Scott Broom and Jim Deacon. Volunteer Fire Department, Firefighters Dependent Fund, Larry Frankel and Ed Welsh. Park Commission for term ending 12/31/2025. Karen Schneider, Mayor, Al Cowger, Kathy DiVincenzo, Paul Nemistel, and Ed Welsh.
I move
I'd
to
like to move-
accept the slate.
I'd like to
Second.
move to accept. Okay.
That was a motion made by Nancy Sogg and seconded by Chip Allworder. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sogg,
Yes,
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay,
And a big thank you to all those people who are continuing to serve the village for, look at it, 2, 3, and 4 more years. I mean, that's a big commitment and they should be congratulated and some sign of appreciation extended to them.
okay. Thank you, Mary. Next is minutes from the council meeting of December 8th, 2020.
move to accept.
I'll second. And I had a change on the top of the second page. Councilman, Member Turner noted that Mayfield High School sophomore Jenny Sarkar was highlighted on Channel 5 for an article featured in Gates Mills Community Clubs, the pink sheet. She wrote an article called "Is Remote Learning Working for American Schools?" Is remote learning working for American schools?
Okay,
You got that, Janet? Okay, so the motion was made by
Welsh.
Ed Welsh and seconded by
Turner,
with-
Sandra
with
Turner
With adjustments.
with adjustments. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sogg,
yes,
Turner,
yes.
Welsh,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
great. Next is minutes from the special council meeting of December 31st, 2020.
all right, move to accept.
Second,
Motion by Ed Welsh, seconded by Ann Whitney. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sogg,
abstain.
Turner,
yes.
Welsh,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is pay ordinance number 1245 for $694,217.77.
move to accept.
Before we do, can I just ask for Janet to just note to me, I'm sure this is absolutely correct, but I noticed that in our payments, we have sent the Mayfield Village close to, what am I thinking, $100,000?
To who?
Mayfield Village. On
Oh.
page 4, I'm assuming that's our ambulance fee or something, but on page 4, we have a payment for, looks like $87,000. And then on page 6, we have an additional payment of 10,600.
67,000.
Let's see, okay, 67, I'm sorry, this is, my printout came out a little blurry, but, so if 10 and 6, $78,000. Janet, is that our annual payment for ambulance, or what is that?
That was the fourth quarter amount, and then it was for an amount, the second one was for the runs over 100, which
Thank
took to our max of the contract.
Wow, thank you very much. It's such a big item, on these reports that it's kind of good to just keep in mind how much that service is costing the village. So, thank
And
you.
it's going up a lot next year, so.
Yes, it is.
We can justify our own ambulance now.
I wish that were the
Good luck
case, Ed.
with
I
that.
wish that were the case, but not so much. All
I
right,
have a
before,
quick little question.
But I've only said it for 20 years.
Nancy?
What is
Nancy?
REDSS?
pardon me again?
Reds.
I was just curious. I don't know. REDSS.
Reds has to do with the Violations Bureau, and that's the amount that we pay. We pay an amount monthly to the county,
Oh, thank you.
part of
That's
the
very helpful.
fines.
It was just
Any other
something I've
questions?
heard of before.
Any other questions?
Can we
Okay,
get
move-
a,
Second,
who made the second?
we had a first motion made by Welsh.
Welsh.
Second,
Beth, I'll second.
Okay, Mary. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, before we get into the financial statement, we're going to have some exciting news tonight as it relates to our municipal taxes. We got a payment, I believe, or it's coming, it's been paid, of $2,055,206 confirmed today to Janet and Tim and me. And I'm going to make clear that we're going to continue on with our budget, just because this has been a fabulous add to our money. We are still going to go forward with our budgets and all of our long-range planning that we did the last part of 2020. It really puts us, I talked the other night about the Improvement Society, that having the payment we got the end of 2020 puts us in a good shape for 2021. This, I mean, I'm so thankful for this. It's hard to even put it into words, but we're not going to get crazy. I want everybody to take a deep breath. It's all good for the village. Tim and I talked about this morning. Everybody has to take a deep breath, and he's going to get into it a little bit more. But our planning and our budgets and whatnot are still going to be what they are going forward. So with that, I'm very happy to turn it over to Tim.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is this a one-time payment?
No.
There is, the truth of the matter, Nancy, is we really don't know. There's no evidence. What we're being told by Rita is that there's no evidence that it is a one-time payment. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in my report. It's very difficult to project what this is going to look like over the next few years.
So we don't know if it's one individual or more than one, or we do?
We do know that.
Okay, thank
But
you.
we're not supposed to get into all the details. It's
Oh,
inappropriate.
that's fine. I was just trying to understand it.
Right. So let me, I have worked hard to make my treasurer's report as dull as possible. So bear with me, please. So village real estate revenues were 16,000 higher than last year, and 78,000 higher than our budget. The way to think about this is that to the extent that the pandemic impacted real estate tax receipts, this impact was overcome by normal growth. Municipal income tax revenues were 542,000 higher than last year and 644,000 higher than budget. As noted in our December meeting, the village received an unanticipated tax payment of approximately $790,000. Without this payment, municipal income taxes would have been below last year by $248,000 and below budget by $145,000. This is the likely pandemic impact, although almost certainly other factors could have played a part. Overall, village revenues were $500,000 above last year and $787,000 above budget. If you take out the impact of that unexpected payment, we were $3,000 below budget and $289,000 below 2019. Our managers responded quickly and well to the potential impact of the pandemic. As a result of careful management and deferred expenses, our total operating expenses ended the year $419,000 below last year and $402,000 below budget. Nearly all of the deferred expenses in 2020 represent items that ultimately will be necessary in our 2021 budget will reflect much of this spend. Overall, our general fund ended the year 105,000 in surplus. That would have been 15,000 without the unexpected payment. So I think the way to think about that is that through deferred expenses and careful management, we balance the budget despite the impact of the pandemic. Total village funds at year end are 5.9 million versus 4.9 million last year. This $1 million gain reflects the unexpected payment plus deferrals of capital and other expenses in anticipation of the pandemic's impact. Our Ancora reserve account stands at 4.9 million, including accrued interest. As mentioned in the mayor's just prior remarks, we have been notified of a very large payment, $2,055,206 to be specific, of 2020 municipal taxes. This is clearly outside our previously normal receipts. Currently, there is no indication that this is a one-time payment, nor, however, is there clarity on whether this represents a structural change in village tax receipts. Our 2021 budget will reflect this and other payments as advised by RITA, our tax agency. The budget will be presented to council at the February meeting. In addition, our long-range financial plan projection will be updated to reflect the significantly higher municipal tax receipts anticipated in 2021, and we will work with RITA to try and understand the long or short-term nature of this unexpected increase. While the unexpected increase in municipal tax increases is certainly positive for the village, I would echo the mayor's comments that we should continue to pursue the various projects identified in the long-range financial plan. Further, while the surplus may now give us flexibility to advance some capital projects, particularly in roads and culverts, it remains important that we continue to focus on efficient and effective operations. Our budget committee will work hard to ensure that residents' tax dollars are spent wisely and that the village maintains adequate reserves. Our long-range financial plan work will focus on what a sustainable financial structure in both revenues and expenses looks like in the years to come. That's my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Tim, it's always better to have pleasant surprises rather than unpleasant surprises. But notwithstanding the the increase and the unexpected increase in the income taxes, the fact is that, and notwithstanding the deferred expenses, all of the departments were under budget. The only overage was really in street repair, and that's understandable. We had a lot of emergencies. So really congratulations to the village departments and really to the mayor and council for just a great year, and really to all the work that you put into it every year, but this year in particular when we had such discouraging, outlook earlier this year. So congratulations to all. I'm sitting here with a big smile on my face.
Thank you, Sandra. That's very nice. It really is a positive to go forward in 2021. And we're all glad we're rid of 2020.
Yeah, here.
Yes.
So there was the news, certainly not as great as Tim's, but the village also got an unexpected payment from the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation, I understand, of $64,000. Not as attractive as your announcement, Tim, but nonetheless, I think important.
Larry, it ain't chump change. Let's just put it that way.
But I think it's also, I like, the fabulous news, but I also think your prudence in expenditures statement is also very important, so that the village knows that we're still going forward and being cautious and using our best judgment.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank everyone on that. Now it's for the mayor's report, and I'm not gonna, I really don't have a whole lot to say other than we're getting ready for the new year and things will start gearing up. But I would like to introduce, we had from our storms in the fall, we had much discussion and I got many phone calls about the electric being out, et cetera, and so did Dave. Well, I think everybody did one way or another. What's going on and whatnot. So I invited Dave Hain, who's our representative for First Energy, to come, and he's going to talk to us about the storms and how they handle things and do a presentation. I submitted to him ahead of time a variety of questions that some of our residents put together to present to First Energy, which I gave to him ahead of time, and he's going to go over. Hopefully, most of them will be in his answered in his presentation. So thank you, and Dean, welcome, and I'll let you take over.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight. Hopefully, before too long, we get up there and meet everybody personally, sooner rather than later. As the mayor said, questions were submitted. I should be able to cover most of those in the presentation. Should I miss something or anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to ask. I'm going to, for everybody's sake, I'm going to follow along through my notes here so I don't get off on a tangent and we get done here at 11 o'clock. I don't want to do that to everyone. So yeah, the storms were a big thing. Mostly we started November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, with 3 back-to-back major storms affecting the same area. One big one's enough. 3 is, as everyone knows, the devastation was vast and everywhere. Specifically, the December 1st storm, where it snowed for days. We had a total of 190,000 customers out, 3,540 hazard wire down orders, and unfortunately, approximately 750 Gates Mills customers out as well. If I'm not mistaken, that's probably about 75%. Underlying cause of most of those outages was trees. One way or another, whether it's a branch touching a line or trees coming down along the right of way. I think everyone knows they could see everything laying there. Our crews were everywhere, doing what we could to get things back on. As far as outage reporting, one thing I want to emphasize, it's not always the case, where it's important to report your outage. A lot of folks just assume that their neighbor reported it, and it's not good to assume that they don't have power. They may, and you may not. It helps us in evaluating circumstances and trying to determine the best route to go and to get everybody back on sooner. If we have a better picture of who's out, it helps everyone. So don't assume we know. Please call. There's different ways to report your outage. One is the First Energy website at firstenergycorp.com. We have our First Energy Customer Contact Center, and the number for outages are 1-888-LIGHTS, it's LIGHTSS, or 888-544-4877. We also have text available. If you want to text your outage and get information back periodically as far as the estimated ETR, that's available as well. To be able to take advantage of that service, you do have to enroll online, get yourself a username, and you can enroll. It's pretty easy. Again, updates are available on the company website or via the text. As far as the numbers I gave, some of this information later on I will be forwarding to the mayor to put on your website, so everybody doesn't have to write down these numbers or try to remember the website links. With some additional information coming later. As far as our process, keep in mind, and I'm sure it probably goes without saying, safety is the utmost importance. Whether it be residents work around their house when there's wires down, or our workers out there working in inclement weather. Sometimes, especially with the snowstorm, we got slowed down a little bit. It was still snowing. It was windy. It's limited on how soon we could do certain things in the process. But usually we start out, for the most part, looking at any known hazards, prioritize restoration to hospitals and other critical facilities. Then we focus our attention on our transmission lines and the substations that supply power to the distribution in the local community. And from there, we make the repairs that restore the largest amount of customers possible. So the goal is to get everybody on as soon as possible. Unfortunately, knowing there's going to be some towards the end that are out the longest. But our goal is to get everybody back on as soon as possible. Folks usually see a damage assessor out there that may not know who the person is, but we send somebody out, maybe 1 or 2 people, to assess the damage. They take pictures, call that information back into our distribution center, and they determine what materials and how many people will be needed to go out there and fix what's damaged. Excuse me. Occasionally, we have to make temporary repairs just to get the power back on, move on to somebody else to get them back on, and then later we come back afterwards and make the permanent repairs. Occasionally, I've had phone calls saying, Dean, they were here, they did something, but they left. Where'd they go? We come back. Main goal is try to get everybody on as soon as we can. Additional information with regards to our process, I'll be providing some links that people can go to and take them back. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them as well. Some information I'm going to forward, like tips on managing through a power outage, storm information, power outage do's and don'ts. There's probably about 20, 25 items there. It's be good information, excuse me. So moving to reliability. What does the utility do to improve reliability? 98% of Gates Mills is supplied by 7 distribution circuits that exit from 3 substations. One of the things that we're doing, you probably heard, read some articles in the past few years, is grid modernization. And what is that? For the most part, it's the installation of reclosers and other switching devices that allow for automatic fault isolation and automatic transfer of customers to different circuits or parts of circuits in the event of an outage. It helps provide some redundancy and help get people back on quicker. Now, unfortunately, with the big storms where everybody's out and there's a vast amount of damage, it doesn't help as much as we'd like it to, because there's just, unfortunately, so much you can't really switch anywhere because everybody's out. All the lines were down. This was a very unusual situation we had. People I talked to, it's something we haven't seen in 10 years or longer. And I'm sure we all feel that we hope we don't see it again for a while either. 6 of the 7 circuits that supply the community were originally part of our smart grid pilot, which was probably about 5 to 6 years ago. So the community has been on the smart grid. I mentioned 6 of the 7 circuits, so there's 1 out there remaining. The automation there is scheduled to be completed. Our current mod program, which is first half of 2021, which we are into. Excuse me. Additionally, we do periodic inspections and routine maintenance on our substations to identify conditions and repair or replace equipment that may adversely affect reliability. The substations in general, we're usually in there at least once a month, taking oil samples, looking at equipment, doing inspections. It's critical that those facilities stay up and running. We also have routine inspections and foot patrols on our lines and associated equipment, scheduled intervals of 5 years or as needed. If we start to detect a lot of outages and problems more than we think we should have, we'll do those inspections more often to uncover the issues. We also occasionally will use thermal imaging equipment on the lines to help us address problem areas. So as far as on cycle, every 5 years, off cycle, which we did post-storm, after the storm, we patrolled the circuits, and we did a thermal scan back in 2020 as well. No significant reliability issues were found. There was some miscellaneous small equipment that needed to replace. We call it isolators or insulators on the top of the poles, the wires go, cross arm, but no significant issues were found. For 2021, we have a circuit patrol planned in the first quarter, And then a thermal imaging scan, which will be done most likely in the summer. Those are best done when the circuits are more heavily loaded, which would be the summertime. And that thermal imaging will catch hot spots where something may be looking potential risk of equipment failure. So it's good to catch those. So given the patrols that we had last year and the ones coming up this year, we feel we're in good shape with regards to inspections and patrols. Big vegetation management, tree trimming and clearing. Perform that work every 4 years on all the distribution circuits. That's an industry practice. From what I understand, more regular pruning has been found to be stressful and can be harmful to the trees. So as far as in Gates Mills Village, considerable amount of vegetation work took place in 2020. On-cycle trim was completed for 6 of 7 circuits. Again, that supply 98% of the village. The 7th circuit was trimmed in 2019, and we do again in 2023. More recent tree-related issues during the recent storms, generally speaking, were again the snow weighing heavily on the trees, and sometimes even though we trim the right of ways, the larger, taller trees that are off the right of ways frequently fall over down onto the power lines on the right of way. So we were not allowed to cut off the right of way. As far as non-outage related reporting. So that can be done by anyone. An example, if there's some visible damage to some wires, that can be reported by calling the First Energy Contact Center. I believe the only option on the website is if it's an outage per se. So if it's just general equipment that looks to be damaged, you can call the First Energy Contact Center. Overgrown vegetation can be reported as well by the contact center or online at firstenergycorp.com. When it comes to residents checking property for visibly damaged wires, poles, or overgrown vegetation, we advise that residents, for the most part, leave that up to the utility. Safety is of utmost concern. We don't want to see anyone out there getting near wires or looking up and tripping and falling, anything. Ideally, best leave that to us. With that said, if something is noticed or overgrown, give us a call. We'll send somebody out to take a look. So may I ask, what can residents do? And the most fruitful thing that can be done is to care for the vegetation and trees. Don't let them get tall and close to the power lines. If you do have some stuff that is touching the lines, call us. We'll come out and take a look at it, and more than likely we'll take care of that. If I can kind of give you a visual, just take a look out there and visual our poles. They're about 35 to 45 foot tall. And a lot of those trees, even if they're off the right of way, are 70 to 80 foot tall. Or if they're not, if they're on the right of way, those, you can imagine those tall trees and limbs right over top of those power lines. When they come down, they're going to be taking those lines out. Lines and or poles. And that takes quite a while to get those back up, especially if there were remote areas where we can't get to. For customers that are looking for assistance with tree trimming, you say property owners can hire a private contractor, contact First Energy for a referral. We do a referral service where we'll have someone come out and talk to you, assess the situation. And if you go through our service, customers can either pay with a credit card or have that amount put on their electric bill for up to 3 years, and that's at no interest. So some people find that very helpful. And to find out more information about that service, it's 1-800-505-SAVE, and the SAVE is 7283, or at firstenergycorp.com products. What additional information I have for residents as far as outages? Again, there's going to be some additional information coming and some links. I want to point out when we talk about the reclosers, items that help as far as on the mod grid, momentary outages versus sustained outages. The momentary outage, usually a couple of seconds, and you probably see the lights flickering on and off. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And after that, usually either all go out or everything's good. So those reclosers detect a quick fault in the line, fault current, and usually it's a branch that may be touching the line. So the circuit closes, waits a few seconds to see if that branch may fall by the wayside. So power comes back on, and if it's there, it goes off again. And say it does that about 4 times. And ideally, it'll fall off by the 4th time, and that avoids a more permanent outage. So sometimes those can be a little bit of a nuisance with those momentaries, but at the end of the day, it's helping reduce the longer momentary outages, which could be 2 to 4 hours or longer by the time we get someone out there to take a look at them. City has a particular concern. What we appreciate is to provide an address for further analysis. We'll come out and take a look at it. Again, I'll be sending Mayor Schneider some links to additional information, as well as some materials for inclusion in the State of the Village mailing. I believe that's coming up in February. Just want to thank everyone for the business. We appreciate all of you, and we want everybody to be safe. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, I wait just a minute, Mary. I want to say that I have Aaron and Kara I can see. I don't know if Jen is on or not, but they had compiled some of the questions. So I don't know, ladies, if you have any other ones or if he answered most everything. And then before I come back to you, Mary, what did you want to say?
I have specific questions, but if Aaron, are these questions collected by Gates Mills residents? And so perhaps we should answer those first, and then.
They're all Gates Mills residents. It's various questions that were posed during our problems.
If you want me to jump in,
Or
I will.
since.
I have some very specific questions and perhaps.
Okay, well, try it. Go ahead.
Okay, my first is, are the problems, so this question is for Dean and his crew, are the problems traditionally at the circuit level or the substation level? You mentioned that we have 7 transfer circuit stations and 3 substations. Traditionally, where are we finding that the problems lie, in the circuit level or the substation level?
To the best of my knowledge, of the circuit level, and at different places in the circuit level. Needless to say, with the storms, there were everywhere.
And is the village aware? Do we have a map of where those 7 circuit level locations are?
Well, the circuits are going to go. Every residence is on a circuit.
Right.
They don't necessarily go geographically. They may come in and out of the village a little bit. They're not just dedicated or geographic per se, not necessarily within the boundaries. But with that said, every house is on an individual circuit. One of those 7.
The reason I ask this, because I think it's really important, is on Christmas Day, we lost power on Old Mill Road, and our neighbors to the right of us and across the street from us had power. So I do realize that we have circuit maps that don't make a lot of geographic sense. But if the residents knew where they stood from a circuit level, I think that would be really helpful, because it goes to my next question, which is, which one of these circuit pods are the most frequent to go down? Do we have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 1 that consistently goes down against the other 6? And that's something that residents, I think, should know.
Well, I don't have the specific stats in that. I will tell you that as far as an ongoing process, we do monitor those outages on the given circuits, and that's one thing that directs us. And like I mentioned, we do the inspections every so many years. Or if we see that circuits are increasing, outages are increasing on a given circuit, we monitor that and draws our attention to it, and then that tells us we need to get out there and take a look. Provide maybe the next scheduled on-cycle patrol or inspections, not for another 2 years. We can't wait that long, so we get out there and do what we can. Now, when you mention, even though your neighbor may have power and you don't, your neighbor does, you still could be on the same circuit. There's different devices on there that sectionalize the circuit.
Okay.
Maybe a fuse blew And those, I don't know, I think it's beneficial for residents to know that there's devices that sectionalize circuits. And that's part of the mod grid process as well, to sectionalize and isolate an outage to a smaller area rather than the whole circuit going down. There's different fuses, and these reclosers will just isolate it to maybe a block if at all possible, a couple blocks rather than a couple or 1,000 people. But sometimes those do change. They don't stay the same forever. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just still think it would be helpful if the repeat offenders in terms of circuits were illustrated on a geographic map, showing that the streets and homes that are going to negatively be impacted, by a power outage. And then, so my next question is, and it's kind of a catch-22 question. If, let's say I have now been designated as an area that is going to be most likely repeatedly affected by a power outage, do I have the option to bundle with my neighbors to choose to have our lines buried so that I don't have this happen to me over and over and over again? So if I have 5 or 6 houses that, as I described, went down, we were out for 3 days. If there was a chance to take my pod of homeowners and say, we can't keep doing this, folks. I've got elderly people, I've got babies. Let's pool our money. And if this one telephone pole is going to come down every season, let's pool our money and see if we can't get those lines buried. Is something like that possible?
Dean, if I could jump in a second. Sure. Mary, are you talking about the main feeds, or are you talking the feed from, say, the street to your house you want to bury?
Whatever would keep my power on. So probably
yeah. So burying a line from your house to the street, you can do it anytime. That has really nothing to do with, and Dean, step in if I give the incorrect answer, but you can do that anytime. You could decide to do that today. But in the example you gave, your feed's going to go underground and then go up the pole out in front of your street. So if the pole's the problem, it's still going to go out. So I think what you're trying to refer to is, can we bury all the main feeds, get rid of the poles, and bury everything in the street? In other words, I think is what you're looking for.
We identify, and I'm going to use River Road as an example.
Right.
River Road south of the cemetery.
Right.
River Road south of the South Cemetery gets whacked every time.
Right.
In that we know that, the road closes, that those telephone poles come down, half of Epping and Berkshire is out, half of Old Mill. If we know that's the big problem, is there any way to form some kind of homeowners association that can say, we're done, let's just do this, let's just bury it and we'll divide the cost? Or I'm asking that only as, what other options do we have than going through this year after year?
Well, the only other thing I would say, I think years ago, and it escapes me, Dean, who at the time the mayor and I spoke to, we had looked at burying the lines in just downtown area. Mm-hmm. And this was 10 years ago, Mary or Karen, something like that, 12.
I don't think it was quite that long ago, but
yeah, at that time it was $1 million a mile.
Right. Sean was mayor and we had a meeting.
So, I mean,
it's probably on the low side.
3 residents want to bear the brunt.
I'm just looking for options other than happening.
I think your option is a generator.
Yeah, right.
Well,
it's effective.
If I may, we strive to supply continuous feed of electricity, but we can't guarantee it. We have no control over Mother Nature. But in the example that you're given, I'd be more concerned is why is that happening all the time? What's causing that? Are there trees right next to there that some branches are coming down? Do they need to be trimmed? And ideally, let's get the root cause, I would hope, would be a little easier fix. Now, not knowing what that is, I mean, if you do have a situation like that, I would like to know where that's at. I'd like to have our folks look at it.
So Dean, I have a question myself. So just so we understand, we have one substation down at the village town hall area, and we have 7 circuits that feed into that or out to another substation.
I don't recall exactly how many are out of that. Not all of them are out of that.
Okay.
I believe there's probably 4, give or take 1. And I know there's a sub out to maybe out to Mayfield that are in that direction. The circuit comes in, and there's a couple that are outside of the village that circuits come in from subs out on the edge.
And is there a limit to how many homes are on a circuit, or how is that?
It's the load. There may be some commercial stuff on there as well, or pumps, different things, and it's mainly by load.
Got it.
And I don't know what that is, but our, engineers have some specs that they look at and evaluate.
Okay, but they could be shifted by your company at any one time if the load was getting to be, say, too much to one circuit or another.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And or we'd have to make upgrades to handle that. And there's
Got it.
different ways to.
Okay.
I guess I also have a comment, and that is that aside from the terrible storms, our community has a reputation for if the wind blows, we lose our power. That is actually the fact. Since I have lived here, that I have lose power more than I have power on half the time. So I think there's more to this than just saying, oh, we had some bad storms and you folks are just, down on the list because you have low density. We know that. But this is not just these storms this year. We lose power all the time. Where the power comes up, my power comes up Beverly Road from River. And that, I don't know, that circuit, and I think that's what Mary's referring to, is that area needs to have some kind of change. It's just not fair.
Well, if you would make some notes and let me know where that area is, and we'll take a look at it. I mean, we're concerned. It's nobody's put on the back burner. I know we've looked at things and made some improvements. I don't have the exact list of what was done and where it was, but I would like to look into that further for you.
And Dean is willing to look at these very things you're saying, Nancy. That was that looked like
I just want to lay it on.
egg beater had whipped through there.
It's not about what happened this year. We know that you were
Right.
dealing with 170,000 people, and we know we're the end of the line. But it's not, we all have generators, but it doesn't, or many people have generators, but it doesn't run everything, and it's very inconvenient. So, we really want to see if there can't be what Mary's suggesting is looking at the ones that go out a lot. And I don't know who keeps track of that, or we need to have someone focus on that who does engineering.
Well, let me build on that if I could,
we do,
Nancy, because it would seem to me that First Energy has the data. And if you break things down by circuit and possibly even what you referred to as, what do you call it, a sub-circuit, or wherever you have the fuses, is it possible for Gates Mills, initiated from council, to put a little group together and look at data over the last 3 years or 5 years and see what the incidence rate is of outages, rather than anecdotally calling you and saying, gee, at my street right here in this one spot, I seem to have a lot of outages. You guys have the data. I understand you can't be necessarily looking at everything, but after that storm, I walked the village a lot, and I noticed last summer how much they were trimming the trees, but boy, there's a lot of trees close to some of these spots. I don't know if that means we start to work with some residents and say, hey, can we do something to cut back some trees in the area? That may be what's going on Beverly. But I guess the point is, if we knew what the data was saying, that this is where you have constant outages, then we can, as a community, begin to say, what can we do about that, working with you guys? But rather than anecdotally, I'm wondering if we can look at data.
Well, generally speaking, I don't believe, for the most part, we don't share that with the public. And not, for one, I think the biggest thing here is you've got to be careful with the data. I'm a former analyst myself, and you got to know what's behind the data and what it's telling you. It can be very confusing and sometimes mislead people on how those numbers are calculated. But I can guarantee you that our folks do monitor that. If you feel at some point in time you're not seeing the results, or you don't think we're looking at it, please let me know, give me a call, and I'll get our people on it. Chances are they're looking at it and you're just not aware of it, or you're not seeing the results. So, you're not thinking
You're not
anything's
seeing the
being done.
results is what we're trying to tell you.
Right.
That's our residents who are here taking their time to, when they know that we're in their corner as well, but they're
Right.
taking their time to say, we've put together questions, we're frustrated. It isn't just the storms. It's the fact that we lose power all the time.
Yeah,
Why
Nancy,
don't
I
we
just
hear
want
from
All right,
some of
one
the
at a time. Aaron, go ahead.
I wanted to thank Nancy and just also thank you, Dean, for answering our questions. I would want to piggyback off the frustration. We've been in Gates Mills now for 8 years, and it's kind of become a running joke that we lose our power all the time. And my family lived on Dorchester for about 30 years, and they also were incredibly frustrated. So yeah, I just want to echo what Chip and others have said, that we as a community want to improve this. So, we're open to doing whatever can be done to improve this going forward.
Okay.
Great,
Well, like I
Aaron,
said-
thank you. Kara, did you want to add to that? You have to put there you go.
Yeah, just a quick thanks to everybody for supporting us, and Dean for being here, and Mayor Karen for putting this all together and making it happen. I don't really have much of anything else to say. I think everybody, especially Nancy, you really kind of said what I was going to say anyway. This is not just a storm situation. It does happen. I would say monthly. Would everyone agree with that? I mean, at least monthly sometimes more often. It might only go out for an hour and a half. It might only go out for 15 minutes, but it's happening every couple of weeks. Sometimes, like, we've experienced 2 and 3 day outages. So it's definitely more than just storms, and it is quite frustrating because everything, as you know, powers down, and then it takes time to power things back up. We lose our phone with the internet, or because we lose the internet as well when that happens. So it does become somewhat of a security concern and an emergency services concern when you don't have a power or phone. And our cell service here isn't that great. You may or may not know that. So in my particular home, even though I have a generator, when the power goes out, I don't have a landline to use, and I don't have a cell phone to use. So it becomes more of a security and a medical concern in those situations when you're going 2 and 3 days without power. But I'm confident, like I said, I thank you for being here. I'm sure that you can help us work through this and identify some of those problem areas and hopefully minimize the outages that we're seeing.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I understand your frustration. A quick question for you. Do you by chance have a backup battery supply or uninterruptible UPS? Have you heard of those?
We used to use something like that for our internet, or for our computer, I'm sorry.
Right.
But is that necessary with the generator? I was under the
No,
impression.
that
It
would be
is,
for
it's
insight. Sometimes
necessary,
it-
yeah.
it
I
might take it-
actually have a question that pertains to that, because I think, certainly in 2020 and with the pandemic, you had lots of people working from home, and consequently, the use of computers at home has become very important. And the quality of power, not only the consistency of power, but the quality of power has become very important. And I don't think that will change. I think you're going to see a continued need for high quality, consistent power. I have a battery backup, and you do need one even though you have a generator. And I'll give you a good example. When he's talking about these reclosers, those reclosers hose a computer, because what happens is the power comes on, goes off, comes on, goes off, comes on, goes off, and can fry your motherboard. So while I understand the system need for reclosers, if you don't have a battery backup, which both filters your power and ends up delivering more consistent power to your computer, you're gonna be in trouble. But I must say that to have the power company say, well, get yourself a battery backup. Mine costs $250, right, to get a good one that I can rely on. And at some point, I think we have to turn around and look at the power company and say, well, what are you doing to provide us with high quality, consistent power? And if Village Council and the Village of Gates Mills needs to participate in whatever fix that is in terms of trimming trees that are not on your right of way or whatever, fine. What do we need to do? But the fact, I've lived in the village since on and off since 1966. We have other people here that have lived at least that long in this village. And I will tell you that the quality of power has gotten worse over that period of time, not better. And I think it's going to require attention from the power company and identification of roles to play in terms of how we can fix this. Because what you're hearing is that this is unacceptable, and we need to do some things.
Yep, I understand. All the communities I deal with, everybody shares that.
All right.
I would just
well,
like,
so that's great that you understand that, but ultimately we need an action plan.
yeah, that's where I was going with that, Tim. I think we need to have a firm commitment from Dean that he's going to get a hold of the engineering department, try to look in, not try, but do look into the problem, and then get back to us with what he's found and what the solution is going to be. So, because I agree with you. And what I found is my power likes to go out right after I stock up my freezer with Mitchell's ice cream. It happens every time.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. So I would like to hear it from Dean that he'll be getting to the engineering department, looking into this. Maybe we can get the information of where the power outages are. I know my power will go out for a short period of time because come home and you have to reset all the clocks. But you've heard the problem and really want you to get back to us to let us know what can be done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Look at the
Larry, by the
data
way-
and get back. Ed, you've got a question?
Yes, Dean, you sell services extra on our bill, one for inside wiring and one for outside wiring protection. We had one of those catastrophes and a tree took everything down, including the side of the house. And I called and they said, that isn't covered. It's not normal wear and tear. Do you know what's going on with that? I mean, that's just a sham.
It's been a while. I've read the terms and conditions of one of those before as far as, I'm not sure exactly what service you have. The one that I had looked at was a surge protection.
The one you sell an outside service.
Well,
and then you sell an inside wiring service. I get letters all the time. I didn't buy the inside one, but the outside one I've had for years. And then when we lost everything, they just said tough.
There is a cut sheet that has, who covers what and whatnot. I think that's correct, Ed. I don't think those are covered. I had that happen.
I had to pay it out of pocket. It was pretty close to $1,000. But I've been paying for years on that, and I mean, that's a joke.
Well, maybe there's an ombudsman at First Energy that you could use to help you negotiate that particular situation.
But I'm just wondering how many of our villages are paying the same thing, thinking they're protected, and they're not.
That's why I asked for that sheet, and the girls had talked about it too, or it could have been with the pink sheet. Anyway, that's something I think it will answer maybe those questions, Ed, or hopefully
I
it'll
should
make
notify
people.
everybody what they're getting for this. I don't know, it's $15, $20 a month. And
Okay.
And again, I don't know which one you have. I will say you're looking for a sheet. And I knew which service you had. I can get that. It should be available. I think
you only sell one service. Yeah, you only sell one outside service.
If you go to the our website, where our products section, and it lists that as far as the tree trimming, outside work, inside work, surge protection. And if you click in there, I believe there's a PDF document with the terms and conditions that say what's. I didn't write it, but it's there.
Yeah, when you sold me a service that was never provided, and all of a sudden, oh, did you look at the detail? I think you should notify all our customers in Gates Mills that they're not covered.
Okay, well, we'll look at those
Karen?
sheets. Mary, you've got a question?
I do, and this is for Chris and Janet. In that we've heard that one of the biggest concerns is computers, especially since so many are working from home and so many children are having to learn from home, that is the home computer that is really being impacted dramatically. We've got heat, we've got power, we've got Mitchell's ice cream, but the home computer is getting fried with these, surges and outages. And Tim had mentioned that he got a battery backup. That was not cheap. It was $250, but it saves him from ever losing his entire computer capability for the day. Chris and Janet, are there grants out there, in that we've now identified that Gates Mills has got this problem and it's not going to go away tomorrow? And so for our residents, is there a grant program that we could research, or some kind of funding where we can, just like we do with Tom Robinson and smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, is there some way we can make some of these battery backup computer, battery backups available to our residents at a less expensive retail, than going up to Office Max and buying it retail? Is there something out there where we can let our residents know that they should do this for their computers, and we can maybe get that for them at a better price?
Not
I'd
that I'm
rather have
aware
the
of.
power company give us good power.
I mean, I know the smoke alarms and stuff we pay for, we don't get any kind of grant or funding to pay for.
It's something that we can, now that it's come up, be aware of, and as grants or things come through, we could see if it qualifies. There's nothing that I've seen thus far that would cover that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything. The one thing that comes to mind would be, depending on what Dean finds through whatever investigation they're going to do, if there's some acknowledgement on their part that there is a problem and surge protectors or battery backups are justified, and maybe there'd be some cost sharing or, funding equipment, and the village helps with installation, just some sort of a negotiated an agreement with First Energy.
I mean, that's what I'm looking for. It's just something that we can tangibly give to our residents that say, yes, we have a problem. Yes, we know this puts you in a terrible position, whether you're running your business from home, teaching your kids from home. And then to the lady's points about feeling like that they are put in a bad spot in terms of emergency, links. If this is something we can proactively do as a council, I would like to pursue it.
I'd like
Well,
to
we
make
can
a
look into that.
recommendation, Karen, I'd like to
What?
make a recommendation.
Mhm.
And that would be, Karen, if you would designate a council member to work with Dean and invite him to come back maybe March council meeting with a report on the issues that we've raised.
We could do that. Dean already agreed to come back with some answers, which I think I'm hearing that having him look at the data and whatnot. Also, Dean and I talked about, and I don't know if you got an answer because we didn't discuss this before, looking into, First Energy has services that they provide. Did you get anywhere with the generator concept?
I had just mentioned that to a few folks, and they're we're not aware of anything, or I haven't been aware of anything that they're even looking at. I think there's too many different types of generators, similar to the power supplies. There's inexpensive ones. Everybody has different needs, and it's just something I believe, is my opinion, that we're not going to want to get into too deeply. So as of right now, there is nothing, but I'll continue to look at it.
Karen, I'm wondering if NOPEC might be able to help us.
It's possible. It's a good question.
Another thing to look at.
Yeah, it's another source to look at. Any other questions right now for Dean?
Mayor, I'd like to volunteer to be part of that committee to put this plan together and to follow up, because we need an action plan here.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Anybody else?
I'll be happy to work on it.
Any other
just
questions?
I have two comments, not necessarily to Dean. One, the comment about the cell coverage issue. I just want to tell you that we have been working very hard. We've pinpointed a location for a cell tower that would address that issue. We're working with the carriers to see if we can get their interest. So I didn't want you to think we weren't very aware of that. And number two, Larry, as far as your Mitchell's ice cream, I have a solution for you. When that happens, just give me a call and I'll help you address what to do with it. So,
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your help.
Any
yeah.
other questions? All right, well, I thank you, Dean, for joining us. We look forward to you coming back with some maybe data answers, et cetera, the things that have come up. And that if you'll give me the links and numbers that we talked about and you talked about. And ladies, I thank you for your help.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting everyone. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to clerk's report.
Nothing to report.
Good answer.
Okay, next is committee reports. Anybody have?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the Improvement Society. Some of you may have heard this. Nancy attended our annual meeting. We have the results of the employee Christmas bonus fund effort. Just as a reference point, 2 years ago, we were able to distribute $49,000. If you recall, last year in 2019, we had a range of individuals write notes. Many of you, not as council members, but as individuals, wrote notes on the letters. And as a result, in 2019, we were able to distribute $54,000. We did it again this year. We changed a few other things. I sent out a reminder postcard. I went through 2 weeks before the date of distributing the money, looked at who had given in prior years, either 18 or 19, but hadn't yet contributed in 20, and just a reminder postcard. And as a result of all of that, we were able to distribute $59,000 this year. So in 2 years, we've increased by 20%. We also have, well, first of all, it is actually very hard when we decide how much to distribute, because in the 2 or 3 years that I've been involved, the timing is such, particularly with year-end people, et cetera, that we haven't necessarily gotten all the money in that we eventually get in. So we don't want to necessarily distribute much more than what we get in. And as a result, we have what we call a rainy day fund. And at the end of 2019, that number was $9,700. At the end of 2020, it was $11,500. So that also will enable us to, at a minimum, hopefully, try to maintain how much we distribute in the year-end bonus. And I don't know if we can continue to build further, but we really have made some great progress. And thanks to all of you who wrote notes, I think we have gotten comments back that the fact that there's personal notes, people have said, gee, that's very nice. And they've given money as a result. So, I just wanted to
thank you.
Thanks everybody for helping.
Great news.
Any other committee reports?
You know, the only thing I would say from the school liaison committee, you probably know, I think I passed it around, that there is a new superintendent, Michael Barnes, who will take over when Keith retires in July, I believe it is. He was with the district and he's a wonderful man. We're really delighted to have him back.
He was a loss when he left to become a superintendent, and now he's back, which is terrific. Great guy. Going to do a great job.
Yeah, so we're really lucky. Keith was great, and you know, with Michael coming in and knowing the district, we're very happy. And there was no planning and no land conservancy meeting, so no comment.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then we'll move on to police department. Chief,
thank you, Mayor, members of council. Happy New Year, everyone. Everybody should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Chief, I do have one. When I look at year to date, 2019 versus 20, our total fines are down dramatically. So I'm hoping that means, you know, that that's somehow COVID related. However, if you go up those two columns, you can see, I'm looking for the spaces where I thought that the numbers didn't quite add up. But I think basically do you think, you know, $30,000 difference in revenue income was because of just COVID, less police activity because of COVID?
Oh, definitely so. I think that has a lot to do with it. And also, in addition, I should point out that the BMV has suspended a lot of violations that we could actually enforce. So, you know, that comes into play a lot. So, you know, citations that we come across, we'd issue in a regular year were ineligible to be dealt with in a proper manner this, you know, in 2020. And that's still in effect. It was extended again. It's supposed to expire at the end of the year, and they pushed that back to April. So, you know, that also has a little bit of impact. But yes, absolutely. You know, a lot of it has to do with COVID.
So just for fun, no turn on red, because I have been a victim of that myself coming out of Hawken. I know that you are charged as if you had run a red light, and so it is a hefty fine. Now, which was years ago, by the way. We went from 49 to 5. So does this mean we have less patrol cars on the road, or?
No, the schools weren't in session.
You know what, Mary? I see what you're saying. That is probably that's probably not accurate, to tell you the truth. Look, man, I didn't catch that. I'll have to look at that one. But that I see what you're looking at there, and that doesn't sound right.
Because the most notorious, at least as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
the no turn on red, the biggest violator is at the top of Old Mill and Mayfield Road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to be right, because you know, if you look at the current month of 3, and then you have year to date, then you only had 2 for 11 months. So that's not going to be accurate. I'll look at that. Thank you.
Everybody uses Gates Mills Boulevard to like get to Hawken or get to Chesterland, empties out onto that Mayfield Road, Old Mill intersection. And it's very clear, no right on red, no matter what time of day it is. And it is just a continuous flow of people making a right-hand turn. So I thought, my golly, 5 people really all year? But so thank you.
Yeah, I'm certain that's wrong, but thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to look at that first thing tomorrow.
That's right. I was just looking to find out where that $30,000 difference in fine income. Thank you.
Is there, Chief, could you comment, was there any more information on the number 2 medical examiner office, what they found at this point?
There's not. It's going to be about probably about another 4 weeks until you know, we hear back from the medical examiner's office. You know, there's no foul play expected here. Gentleman in I would say mid-40s, and you know, some underlying health issues there. We believe that probably had quite a bit to do with, you know, what transpired Christmas morning.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the service department. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, you should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I do, Dave. First, I'd like to thank you for helping and getting your staff to set up the menorah for Hanukkah. It went very well. Appreciate that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Could you give us an update now on the contract with AKE and where we are with them?
Yes, so AKE started on January 1st, kind of phasing in. He is stopping by. I asked him during this month to kind of stop by in conjunction with the county to kind of make sure he understands the plant very well. And that way, if he's got questions, he can certainly ask the operator from the county. He is doing that. I did speak with him last week. He's certainly getting a handle on it. And then Chris and I did have a meeting with AKE and the county and just kind of made sure everybody was on the same page. We do have to make a change in the contract with the county because they've kind of got the wastewater treatment facility services in the same contract as the services they provide for all our pump stations and management of that. So we're working on that, and I would hope AKE would be taking over the reins 1st of February. That's what we're shooting for.
So we'll still have an expenditure with the county for the pump stations?
For 1st of January, if you're saying 20, you're talking about an expenditure for 2020 or 2021?
For 2021, are we going to be using the county for pump
For
stations?
about a month, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, the
Okay.
pump stations that the county does service them because they're their pump stations.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sorry.
two things here. There's AKE and the downtown pump station and the wastewater treatment plant and the management of those. And then there's a entirely separate portion of the agreement with the county where anybody that has access to a sanitary sewer pays on a front footage basis into a sanitary district fund, and they operate and maintain our sanitary sewers and our other pump stations, Chartley, the Woods, etc.
So we get billed for that, and then does that flow from the residents through us and the bills?
No,
for the
we don't
county
get
flow
billed
through
for
us?
that, Chip. There's it's funded at the county. Everybody pays a front footage assessment on their tax bill that has access to a sanitary sewer, and that money funds that program.
Okay, so in February, Dave, we'll stop getting billed from the county for anything to do with wastewater?
That's what we're
What you're
shooting for.
saying.
Yeah, any direct
Okay.
billing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this year we'll get the invoice for last year.
Yeah, I heard that from Dave earlier today. Good billing system and pay a year in advance or behind, but anyways.
Dave, just a comment. I got today, and probably others did too, an email from Rumpke about an improvement to the recycling program, that they're going to be able to recycle more things now, and that they've got a long-term contract with a stable regional end user for the material. So I just
Correct.
wanted to comment if, anything, thank you for whatever you might have had to do with that, because, just a few months ago, we were really worried about recycling and the fact that the village might incur an
How did you
additional
get
cost
that,
for
Sandra?
It came from Rumpke.
Yeah, I
And
got
then
it as well.
Email.
Yeah.
Email.
Yeah.
We got an email from Rumpke.
Yeah, we
I
got
didn't
one.
get it. We didn't get one.
Do you
I
guys
didn't get
have
one
your
either.
email with Rumpke? You need to give them your email.
Oh,
Yeah.
they can send the bill.
I'll forward it. I'll forward it to everybody.
Yeah,
But
but-
again, I think that's great. Again, especially since we were so concerned about this issue a couple of months ago. So.
And I'll make sure that notice is also put in the pink sheet, or we'll post it probably in town hall and maybe the post office too. Just
I think we're
so
still
again, we can-
concerned how we recycle. We were just talking about this, that we don't look as good as we used to or should on the solid waste report.
We're 50%, we're half as good as Moreland Hills. And we're the worst in any of the list of any of the communities in the county waste recycling. So
Solid waste, county solid waste.
Maybe this will help.
Yeah, for sure.
well,
Yeah,
just
Bert.
as an aside with Rumpke, is there any ability to have an automatic deposit? Pay. I mean, once a quarter to have to print the check and put it in an envelope and put the postage on. That's pretty dark ages these days.
You
And
can pay online.
You can do
pay
it online
too.
and quarterly.
Yeah, you can pay online.
okay, I'll check that out then. Okay,
You don't have
Probably
to
how
send
they get your
anything in an
email
envelope.
addresses.
okay.
One other
Thanks.
point I wanted to make on Dave's report here, and maybe Tim, you could weigh in on this a little bit. There's a total construction value of $8,700,000, and if you equate that to a tax base of what we get back from county taxes of 14.47%, that would be an additional about almost $1.3 million in revenue. And I'm wondering, does that information get to the county? Does it increase the value of the house? And are we getting any return on these total construction costs?
Well, I can certainly answer the first two. Yes, we have to provide a monthly report to the county on all our permits. And each one of my permits, that's where I get that value. I have to attribute a value to that work. So the county is notified monthly by all the permits we get on a monthly basis. And in that is a dollar value. And then again, they take that, and I believe it's on a 3-year cycle, they reassess the property.
Right. It's doesn't happen right away, Larry. It's
But
every 3
Okay,
years.
even if it's in
they
3
reassess.
years, though, Nancy, that would increase our revenue like almost $1.3 million.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
So Larry, that's an excellent question. I don't know who I was talking with about this, but can we find 5 examples where of a substantive number where the work was done, you submitted the number to the county and see evidence that in fact the value of the property was adjusted accordingly and we saw the benefit? I obviously wouldn't mean going back 3 or 4
Remember,
years.
it's not that number, excuse me.
No, I know that. It's a percentage of that.
But it's they don't use the number. They use the 2/3 or whatever of your
Right.
property value.
No,
and
I
then-
understand mathematically it's not the same. I'm just saying that I'd like to see some evidence that this, I agree, Larry, it wouldn't be 14% of the 8 million, but it sure should translate into something.
It would be of 2/3 of the 8 million.
Maybe the way to do it, Dave, would be to take like 3 properties where we know that there's been a huge renovation or redo. We've got a couple of those, and take a look at, Ann's got her hand up for one.
I can vouch that they follow up. We just got our property tax in the mail late, like 10 days before it's due. And we had work that was completed a year ago, and it must have been then the 3-year thing happened because our taxes increased significantly.
Oh, good.
Also,
So I can vouch for one.
I think also because all the tax bills came late, they've extended the deadline by a week.
Right.
You should check that, see if
It
that's.
was actually on the bill, which I found fascinating that they had already made the extension.
Well, ours just came today.
Well, mine came like yesterday or the day before, but it had the 28th date on it.
Was yours up,
Really
Nancy, or the
surprised
same? Nancy, was yours the same or up a lot?
I don't know. I didn't really pay attention. It seems
Larry,
somewhere around the same.
Well, it should be up at least some because of the various bond issues.
Yeah, ours went up significantly.
Yeah.
Now, that's what
I
I'm
don't-
hearing. So
I
I'm just
don't-
wondering about the tax revenue going forward.
Maybe
because
a
I'm-
few $100s, but not thousands.
Well, okay.
Ours was up there.
Okay. Any other questions for Dave?
No, thank you, Dave, for that information, though.
Sure.
Thank you, Dave.
That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Just a comment for Janet and Dorothy and Jean. Thank you for all your efforts for the toy drive in December. It's such a nice thing that the village is represented so well in an effort like this. So thank you for doing all that work on our behalf and for the kids' behalf. So
Next is the fire chief. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a copy of the fire department report for December, another page turner, very colorful. It was a very busy month following the month before, which was a record-breaking month. I'd also like to say thank you to the service department for the toy collection, for Olivia's dream. Olivia was my niece, and I do appreciate, what everyone here at Town Hall and especially the service department has done the last couple of years to make that possible. Also want to congratulate Dave Biggert on the fact that today is his 23rd anniversary with the fire department.
Wow.
Some of you may not be aware that he was hired by the fire department a few years before he became a member of the service department, the assistant service director, and ultimately service director and building official. So he's been with us longer than anyone, but today just happens to be his 23rd anniversary with the fire department.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I would like to say that you know, again, coming out of high school, that had been a dream of mine to become a firefighter. And for whatever reasons, it just didn't present an opportunity. But in my later years, Tom gave me the opportunity, and it's always been a dream of mine, and I really do enjoy it.
Dave, I thought you were saying that you came out of high school 23 years ago, and I was getting pretty impressed. But or else you graduated from high school at a little later age than many others.
Are you still on Willoughby Hills too?
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah, I am 20. I think 20 plus years with that, 23 years with that department, or 21.
Congratulations.
Very
And
nice.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the fire department report.
Slow things down.
Quite a month, quite a month.
Yep.
Hopefully you don't have to go to a legal sheet to get everything on, Tom.
Or reduce the font size so no one can read it.
Yeah.
Quite
And
a
since we're passing accolades around, Tom, thank you each time you step in to help with Zoom calls. I know for our committees when we have them, and for Improvement Society, you helped set up, and just we've got it down pretty well. Thank you very much for all that.
Much appreciated, our Zoom master.
Oh,
Exactly.
that is a terrible title that I never wanted.
Oh, well.
That concludes the fire department report.
Thank you, Chief. I do want to bring up one thing, which I don't know if Chief Greg announced it in December. I think it was after our council meeting, and it reminded me when it was brought up about the toy drive to thank Janet and Jean and Dorothy. Did you ever tell council that Dorothy won the police award?
Well, you know, we don't like to look at it like a competition. However, you know, it was a
No,
little bit
but
different this year. It was a
still.
little bit different this year because of COVID, you know, how, you know, everything was done this year. So, but yes, Dorothy was awarded with the Police Employee of the Year award. You know, we gave that to her in a little bit different fashion this year. But, you know, as we all know, Dorothy's kind of a fixture down here. She does a great job. You know, she's great with people on the telephones. And, you know, we certainly did want to recognize her and, you know, receive some input from the troops. And everybody was in pretty much agreement that, you know, she'd be a great, you know, great person to be the recipient of the award this year. So she was really excited about it. In fact, I think Janet was there when we presented to Dorothy, and Jean was there. We want to go ahead and do it on a day when, you know, enough people were around so they could, you know, kind of support her. So she was very happy.
And I think it happened after our council meeting is my point to
Yes,
announce that.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Any other things before we move on to our resolutions? Okay. Oops, who was that?
Me, Ed Wolf. Anything new with our, I noticed in the budget, there's $0 for the cemetery. And I was wondering
Well,
what's going on.
that's something, we have trees down in the cemetery. Let me tell you about that.
There's $15,000 that I appropriated because we have a lot of tree work to do in the cemeteries.
I
was
think
thinking
Dave
more-
said we may have to get a crane in there for a couple of the trees.
Yeah, I was thinking
We
more
are
about
still,
expansion.
we are still working on it, Ed, and I'm hopeful.
Okay.
Right, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, next we'll move on to resolution 2021-1. Chip?
Yes, so this is a resolution requesting the Director of Transportation to proceed with the Mayfield Road, Chagrin River Road improvements, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract and provide payment and declaring an emergency. And I'd like to move to suspend the rules.
Seconded by Nancy.
Yes.
Okay, Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Chip, I just have one quick question.
Yes.
Was this an anticipated 2021 budget item?
It's in the budget that we're looking
Yes.
at on Friday.
This
And
is the
Dave-
safety issue that's at Mayfield and River.
Right, and I think we've budgeted 130,000 as our portion. Is that still a solid number, Chris?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
and they're
Yes,
gonna
it's
start,
it's pretty close.
they're gonna be starting like in March, April, correct?
Perfect.
Yeah, they're going to be selling the project this month. The biggest schedule impactor will be the actual poles that they have to order. There's like a 2 to 3 month lead time on those. So their start will have a lot to do with what the delivery time for the poles is at the time that they order them.
And the road construction portion will take place around that same time, or?
Yes, they'll probably, once they get the delivery date for the poles, they'll probably work back from that and then schedule everything to be done so the poles can go up right when they get there.
Yeah, okay.
Just
All right, now I move.
Chip.
I'm sorry.
So I think it's really important just to note like how important this is from a safety issue and improvement of that intersection, because there have been so many near misses that I've seen there. So really glad that this is moving forward.
Totally agree. Totally
And just
agree.
a reminder to everybody, we did secure about 2/3 of the total project cost from ODOT through a grant through the central office for a safety project. So that's good news as well.
Thank you.
2/3? I thought it was more than 2/3.
Well, I'm rounding based on the cost share for the village's preparation of the plans, and then the cost share, it's 80/20. And then, well, in any event, about 2/3 of the total project cost or more, including the design work, which the village funded.
Okay. All right, now I move to approve resolution 2021-1.
Second.
Seconded by Nancy.
Larry.
Larry. I stand corrected. All order.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
Frankel.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Sog.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, next is resolution number 2021-2. Chip?
This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Narone and Sons for emergency storm sewer repairs for Mayfield Road and declaring an emergency. And again, I'd like to move to suspend the rules as they are ready to start very shortly.
Second.
Seconded by Welsh. Allworder.
Yes.
Frankel.
Yeah.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Sog.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Could Chip or
Yes.
Chris, could you just comment on what the work entails that are being done on both of these projects?
The project on Mayfield Road, we have a catch basin that's completely exposed, as is the back of the curb. We had an outlet pipe that fell apart that goes down into a ravine. And it took a part of the slope with it. So we'll be replacing the catch basin, the outlet pipe, and then in the ravine that's below the road, there's 2 catch basins that are constantly buried, and the ravine fills up with water, which is a unsafe condition for the service department guys when they're out there trying to get things unplugged. So we're gonna rebuild those 2 structures so that they have better trash racking on them and they can be cleaned out more safely by the service department. On Old Mill, this is on Mayfield, it's kind of right across the street from Carpenter. On Old Mill, we've got a big sinkhole that developed next to a catch basin because the catch basin's fallen apart. The water actually got underneath the asphalt, but we'll be replacing 2 catch basins, about 100 feet of drain tile in between them, and then another catch basin and a crossover pipe on Schooner River Road, all of which we found when we cleaned and televised the sewers. And then as a part of the road program, we'll have to do a little milling and filling in there to get the delaminated asphalt surface off and repair that once we get a contractor on board for the road program.
Thank you.
All right. So I move now to approve resolution 2021-2.
Second.
Seconded by Welsh or Mary.
Doesn't matter.
Let's go to Mary.
Let's move it along.
Allworder.
Yes.
Frankel.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Sog.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is resolution number 2021-3. Chip?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, this is my last one. I was hoping I'd have as many as Ann had in the last meeting, but I can't get there. So this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with CA Agresta Construction Company for emergency storm sewer repairs for Old Mill Road and declaring an emergency. And again, I move to suspend the rules.
Second,
Seconded by Welsh, Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
And now I move to approve resolution 2021-3.
Second,
Seconded by Larry, Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we've got Tom. Is there any business from the audience or questions, or is there anybody out there?
Well, we had a maximum of 7 people viewing. We have no questions.
Well, if that's the case, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
You.
See you at budget on Friday.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody. The vaccine is almost here. Stay safe.
I had it
You got it? Awesome.
right here.
Good.